We made it. It is December 31st, 2025. In a couple of hours, we will all enter together the new year. This is the last episode of the Finding Home podcast. Spoiler alert, ever. And I'm going to explain that at the end. We've got a lot of cool things happening in 2026. I have never felt so encouraged and so alive. I'm not about, usually in the past have not been about, new year, new me, but there's so much weight, I think, where something is going to be birthed in 2026 for a lot of people that it demands change. It demands, leaning into certain things that you feel Yahweh's called you to do. This is the last episode of this first season, and it's really a part 2 to a previous episode that we released in October called The Age of Information versus the Abundant Life. And I'm doing this all in one take. I need to get home and, hang out with the family, experience New Year's. So if there's mistakes, I'm sorry. You're just getting the raw, uncut, unedited version that I don't have time to polish up. So I made some notes on my legal notepad on what I want to talk about. Hopefully this won't be too long. I've already recorded this once, but it felt a little bit out of my element in the things that I was talking about. I don't want to pretend like I'm somebody that I'm not. But what was interesting about after I released that podcast about the information age and our potential addiction to needing to know things, needing to be in the loop. And I used the example of Charlie Kirk, of how we've become desensitized to even violence and bad news, and how we believe that, the world is a really, really, really bad place because of what we feed on in terms of our entertainment, scrolling. And I even compelled or gave, a plea, I'd say. See, I would have edited that part out, staying in there. Let's get on each other's porches and have coffee and have conversations and have interaction and start building community that way that's real and authentic, and we're growing as people. Not 4 days after that podcast was released, someone who I follow, his name's Gary Brecka. He's into, biohacking. He's the superhuman protocol guy. He's a human biologist. I follow his podcast. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And he had a guest. His name is TJ Power. And TJ Power is a neuroscientist that has written a book that I have called The Dose Effect. And this podcast was focused on the 4 neurotransmitters in the brain that are the key to fulfillment and happiness. And it was very interesting because it was right after I released that podcast. Because this is where we release podcasts from the place of where we are in the moment, right? I released that podcast because I was struggling and wrestling with my attention. I feel like Yahweh was pulling on me that you're spending too much time on your phone, and there's an ancient path that you need to find again. So that's the place that I'm in, and then I run into this podcast, and there's a lot of biological information that was given that really gelled with, the theological one that I was giving just 4 days before that. So I'm just going to kind of talk about my reflection on that podcast. And we just took a couple months off from that. I had to digest that in a way because I felt like 2020, this was the key to starting out 2026 the way that I believe Yahweh has called us to do that. And maybe it's the same with those that are listening, or maybe just a few. If it's for another person, this is worth it to me. But talking about the 4 chemicals, neurotransmitters in the brain, and it was the acronym DOSE. It was dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And I wanted to talk about the dopamine, and everybody's familiar with that. We've related to, scrolling on your phone, having those constant dopamine hits, those constant dopamine spikes. And I believe that has really done a number on us. I believe Western society is addicted to the dopamine hit. And we've treated dopamine as if it's a pleasure chemical, and it's absolutely not. Dopamine is our motivation. It is what keeps us going. It's our drive. I'm sure that Yahweh has placed a lot of dreams in your heart. He's placed a lot of dreams in my heart, in my family's heart, my friends, my community. And you have to partner with those dreams, right? It doesn't really just fall in your lap. That would be a disservice to you, because Yahweh cares more about your integrity, your character, your personhood, right? Just to throw you out there. And that would be him using you. And he's not in the business of using anyone. And if I noticed that my microphone was clipping on the red there. So again, this is a one take. We're not editing this out. So we need to have this biological, measurement of dopamine, where this is where we stay motivated. It's what we call a dopamine baseline measurement of this is where we're at constantly, day to day, how motivated we are. And it's supposed to be a reward that we teach our brains. After I put in a lot of hard work, after I put in a lot of effort, then my brain is saying, hey, this is how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to work hard, and we're supposed to be rewarded because of that work. What we have done is we have completely skipped the hard work part. That we're constantly, scrolling our phones, or we have an unhealthy relationship with food or entertainment, right? Or substance abuse. So we're constantly getting these spikes of dopamine every time, we're scrolling, and we're trying to feed ourselves something. And the more spikes that you have continually, your baseline begins to drop. Because the way that it works is you get a spike of dopamine, it goes underneath the baseline, and then it slowly rises back up to the baseline. If you're not putting in a lot of hard work, you see, if you're doing it the right way, in the right order of things, we're supposed to be focused and put a lot of work into something and have, not frequent spikes like we do when we're just consuming information. We're supposed to have, less frequent spikes. When we do that, our baseline begins to rise. Because we've taught our brain, we've rewired our brain that says hard work is needed. And this is where I'm explaining this, I'm not trying to preach to you, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a medical doctor. I know I don't sound like one. I know I don't look like one. I am being vulnerable with where I'm at, with where my wife and I are at, where we're seeing these things and we're researching these things, and we feel like Yahweh's leading us to find these things to make the necessary changes into 2026. So I have noticed that I have been addicted to information. Psychologically, it's the lack of faith, is the things that I have to know. Our friends Candace and Christian, who have been on a podcast, sent us a song that we've loved to listen to from United Pursuit, Looking for a Savior. And the first line of that song is, I'm addicted to the certainty of life and my need to know everything. And that's kind of where we're at, right? It's very scary. Humans, or human nature is we need to be in control and we need to be in the know. And when you do that, you substitute your will versus being led by the Spirit of God, being led by the wind of God. Yeah, it's as simple as I'm on my phone too much. I'm not being present. And what we have found is the more dopamine hits that we have when it's time to be a normal human being and do tasks, it becomes incredibly difficult. Like a normal task. If we're ever, brought to a place where something is a little bit hard, it's miserable. And like I said in the previous podcast in part 1, I've started to notice things. I've started to observe even people around me. When I would go to Walmart, if I had to pick something up from Walmart, I would stop in the parking lot and I would get on my phone before I'd go in. It's like trying to get prepared to do something. Even though getting something from Walmart should be very, very normal. I encourage you, go to a parking lot. Go to a Walmart. And just look, just observe where people are at. People do not have communication with each other anymore. We don't have interaction with each other anymore. It's hard for us to look somebody in the eyes. And I want to say it's because we have so got out of touch with reality, and not just reality, but the original blueprint that Yahweh made up our being as, our biological makeup. I think we're addicted to dopamine because we're treating it as if it's a pleasure and if it's going to bring us this place of belonging. And what we found is that's actually oxytocin. Oxytocin is released when you're in deep conversation, when you have physical touch, when you have interaction, because just as dopamine is to motivate us, to keep us going, to keep us pursuing our dreams and our goals, oxytocin is there to say, this is where you belong. This is home. I mean, we've named the podcast Finding Home, and that's very, very important to me because it speaks over our journey the last 10 years. That finding home is important. Finding your tribe is important. But we've tried to pursue dopamine. What is playing here? Hey, we're going to keep going. We've tried to pursue dopamine as a replacement for oxytocin. Like if we can just bury ourselves into even work, even being a workaholic. And that's how we're easily becoming burnout. Have you ever went through, a scrolling session, and they call it doom scrolling, and you left that session and you just felt shameful? Maybe it's because you were unproductive. Maybe it was because it stole away your attention that you really needed to put on something else. Maybe you felt shameful because you were trying to achieve something else and you just allowed that to let you off the hook. We're not saying that you're even looking at anything bad or experiencing anything bad. But dopamine is not there to say, this is home for you. This is where you need to be. Dopamine is there to say, keep going. Work hard. Put in the effort. And after you put in the effort, then we're rewiring our brain. That's when we receive the dopamine hit. I think about David Goggins. He'll have a YouTube video where he's giving this motivational speech, and it's zoomed into his face, and then it starts to pan out, and he's got his feet and hands tied behind his back, and he just jumps in the ocean. His big thing is to do something that you need to suffer a little bit every day. You need to do something you don't want to do every day. For me, and I need to do more of this. I need to get healthier in 2026. But the ice bath, the ice plunge for me is something like if I can conquer that first thing in the morning, I have won the day. And I've started to bring my kids out with me because I know if my kids are out there watching, I'm not going to chicken out. If my kids are inside, sometimes I'll just let myself off the hook. Like, oh, well, I got to get to this certain place at a certain time, and this is going to hold me back, and all of these excuses, right? But just talking about my personal addiction to dopamine, I feel like my phone has become a family member. And it's becoming to where normal tasks aren't enough to keep my attention. It's stimulation. Stimulation is a good word for it. I have to stimulate my mind. And I'll ask you the same thing. Even when you're driving, do you have to listen to music? Do you have to have a podcast on? It's scaring me because I'm noticing even with, some of the high school students work across the road from high school. A lot of them pull out on the road and they have their phone in their hand scrolling social media. Like it's not enough just to drive. I've noticed watching a movie. How often can you watch a movie without your phone in your hand? Because it's become not enough, because our dopamine spikes we just need to be stimulated over and over and over and over again. I said this in the previous podcast, with teachers trying to keep students' attention. Man, I feel bad for them. Every 7 to 10 seconds, they have to do something to re-grab attention these days. And I think that we've been told that this is the new normal. Like, you just have to prepare for it. And I want to say, no. We do not have to participate. I believe that there is an ancient path. I believe that Yahweh is sounding the alarm again to get back into this place where hard work is treasured, where putting your hands in dirt, where you don't get instant gratification, but you're building for something real and tangible. So what does that look like practically? And this podcast for me is just to release to you guys, what does 2026 look for us? It's going to look like a lot of hard work. It's going to look like detoxing from dopamine hits. We're going to put our phone down. I just talked to my wife today about it. When I get home from work, because you got to use your phone for work sometimes. I understand that. I'm going to set my phone down at 5 p.m. and I'm not going to pick it back up unless it's emergency, unless somebody calls me. Not only am I going to try to detox myself from that, but I want my kids to see that. I don't want my kids to see like having a phone 24/7 is normal. I'm not setting that tone. I'm not letting them see, one of my daughters made a fake phone this year, and they do a lot of play, right? They are very, very creative, but that really bothered me because I'm giving them this example. I'm always on my phone, always on my phone. And it may be for work. It may be, building a business like I'm doing right now, but I need to be present. I need oxytocin. I need deep conversation. I look forward to the evenings of, when the kids go to bed, of watching YouTube, right? I can get lost on YouTube. I can get lost on, a limited series show on Netflix. And I have treated that as if and this is going down towards even the endorphins. The endorphins it's a response to stress, or it's a response to pain that your body releases. And for me, I use TV or even food, an unhealthy relationship with food, as a stress reliever. Quote unquote, take the edge off, right? For some, it's alcohol. For some, it's substance abuse. For some, it's gossip. For some, whatever that is, the endorphins that we use can be released in a negative way. And I'm starting to see that I need to make a dramatic change. I'm the first to admit, you can kind of roll your eyes when you think of new year, new me, and New Year's resolutions. For some reason, this year feels very, very different. 2026 has the potential to be the greatest year of your life. I'm not trying to, release a prophetic word to the church. I really like to speak into people's lives that I have a relationship with. And if it's a direct direction from the Lord, I really just feel it in my bones that this is the year of belonging. This is the year of divorcing superficial, artificial things. And the problem with dopamine addiction is when you're using social media, you think you're connected to people. You think you're in community, and you are not. And you get to the end of your rope and you're just as lonely. You're just as stuck. You're just as numb. You enter into these places of even depression because you need connection. You need to belong. And there's even this sense of you need to be needed. I always spoke bad about people that, were constantly just trying to bring something to the table, like just chill, just relax, just enjoy life. And I'm finding that is a healthy biological component, that there is this need for me to be needed by my community. Like, I want to bring something to the table. I get value at doing that. And listen, this is the year for it. This is the year for you to really find where you belong. But it's going to take some divorcing to get to that point. Putting our phones down. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that you do? Do I grab my phone? Do I scroll? Because it takes zero effort to do that. It takes zero hard work to do that. And we're telling our brains that we don't have to work hard to get this reward. So when we actually do have to work hard, we're very, very, very frustrated. Thinking about all the things that I could accomplish even with building a business that I have wasted because I'm in this limited series on Netflix. Or my softness in the place of prayer, in the place of contending, in the place of speaking to Yahweh, because we don't rush Yahweh. I know that may be hard for some people to hear. He doesn't operate in urgency. He's not scared. He's not nervous. We don't make him work faster than he already does. Sometimes you have to remain. Sometimes you have to really sit there and listen. It's taken us 10 years of sitting and waiting and listening to people say that we've lost our minds. People asking, where is the voice of the Lord in your life? And just sitting, because I know that 10 years ago, there was this request from Yahweh, like, hey, I know where you're at. I was so busy. I was so even addicted to work, overworking myself, trying to strive, trying to find my way into the place of being a son of God, right? I'm working my way to be a head honcho, right? And I finally was able to be sat down by the Father. So I want you to find me in the wilderness. I want you to plant a garden, even though you've never planted anything in your life. It's a night and day transformation from where I was to what I'm doing now. I am so entangled within agriculture and the homesteading movement and permaculture design and designing landscape that I am building a business on that. Had zero grit for that 10 years ago. I remember when we left as a family, we left the ministry, we left, organized religion. And this isn't a time to bash it. You've heard me talk about it before. There was this invitation. I could see it in my heart. The prayer was, I want something so real and tangible. Still not breaking my promise. We had a complete shutdown of everything. So it's not editing, right? I'm a man of my word. But it did remind me that I need to speed this up because this is not supposed to be long. But I remember, and I wrote this down, and this has a lot to do with where I believe 2026 has us as a family and as a ministry, as a business. And I say this not to just hog all of that. this may inspire some of you to really start thinking about what 2026 looks for you. For some of you, it's to join us. It's to come on board and be in relationship and community. And it may take some courage to do that. But I remember in 2026 for me is to come out of hiding. 10 years of hiding, 10 years of being quiet, 10 years of not pursuing influence, and to really set my heart in the right posture to be a teacher, to be a father, to father sons and daughters. This is what I saw. And when you have this promise from Yahweh, it can be such a dramatic change in your life that you begin to lose the importance of the original invitation. You know what I mean? So, and I'll say this, what I was invited to was, and I could see it in my heart, I saw this big barn. I saw this big table with families all sitting around having a meal. And this table is very, very long. In this barn, this is where we would gather. And we were learning how to grow food. And we were learning about the kingdom. And we were, like you would say, living life together, right? But I would see gardens everywhere. I would see families. I would see my heart's cries for sons and for daughters, people that I can pour my life into and to watch them raise families. I saw music. I saw the cello. I saw the violin. I saw the banjo. I saw music being made. I saw dancing. I saw the arts. I saw my children putting on plays. I saw creative play. I saw long tables. And you have such an emotional invitation from Yahweh that you have to make a lot of changes. Again, I didn't have a grid for agriculture. I didn't have a grid for a barn. I just knew I wanted something real and authentic and real community. So there was all these dramatic changes that happened that you almost lose yourself in that, all the change. And I've had to remind myself at the end of 2025 is, why did you start this to begin with? Remember. I've heard Yahweh say, remember. Remember. Remember 10 years ago. Remember the original invitation and refocus. And through dreams and through conversations with others, I think I've sometimes get off track because, we want to build a business, right? We want to build something to leave a legacy for our children, and we want to, be financially independent and, self-sustaining, all those things that you get so busy in the romance of all of that you forget the simplicity of the invitation. We have dreamed with Yahweh the last 10 years to turn into a business creation called the Wild Country. And this is what that is. And I'll briefly go over it because I've gone over it before. It's an online community of people that want to learn how to homestead. I wouldn't call it a church plant. I would call it, we're building a long dinner table. And we're starting that in January of 2026. And it's going to be something hard. It's going to take a lot of work. And my dopamine spikes are going to be regulated because it's going to be worth it. I'm a permaculture designer. What does that mean? It's a fancy word for, I like to design gardens and landscapes and natural systems that benefit the land and the people and create food and create abundance. And I do consultations, and I'm doing that now, and it's been awesome. I want to build a school for people that want to learn permaculture and they want to come be in West Virginia, or they want to come online from all over the world. I want to be partner with other people that I am now that are doing real, tangible, effective work. Fixing water systems in other countries where people don't have water to drink, or it's staining their teeth, or it's making them sick. We know how to fix that. We know how to fix contaminated water that comes from a mine. And we want to be able to teach other people that. We want to show people natural ways of living, if that's, natural health care, or how to just live a more simple life, if it's homeschooling, if it's all of the above. That's what we want to do. But the main thing is we want to build community. It is time for us to come out of hiding. It's time for us to start building our community. And that's what 2026 looks for us. And all that sounds so awesome and romantic, and it's so easy to talk about the dreaming part, but there's actual work that has to be put in place. And one of those things is what we've talked about. We have to have a divorce from some things. One, and this is talking to a lot of you will feel connected or feel led to come and be a part of what we're doing. Some of you will feel encouraged to, do your own community. And I love that. However we can help or assist in that, we would love to be a part. But you're going to have some pushback on this. 2026 is the year where there's so much potential, and the year of belonging, but you're also going to have the other side of the coin where you're going to have some pushback from a couple people. And it's going to be from people that have unsustainable or artificial systems in place. We're going to provide a lot of theological teaching, a lot of kingdom building. And I pray that I'm led by the Spirit in that, to where I am not doing it for financial gain, because there are others that are doing it for financial gain, that are giving certificates, like prophetic certificates, or having you sign up for an apostolic network, and they're saying that it's honor. And I'm telling you it's not. And you're going to get pushback from those people. You're going to get pushback for people that are giving courses on spiritual warfare. You're going to get pushback from those people. They're I know it now, they're going to release words, quote unquote, from God that say that we're being rebellious. And that's not the thing. I'm not here to attack anybody or attack someone's way of making a dollar, okay? But you will not fleece the people of God anymore. Little side note, right? I may have edited that part out if I was editing this video, but again, I'm a man of my word. One hit wonder right here. We have to be willing to give fresh bread in 2026, and that's for free. That is for free. This goes against all of my business teachings that I've received from mentors. They have said, don't do things for free because people aren't going to buy in. And there's some truth to that. There is some absolute 100% truth to that in terms of building a business. If people really want to be a part, they'll pay and they'll invest. That's awesome. All right. We need to give fresh bread. We need to give the kingdom and live not worried about financial gain. I'll just put it that way. So just to wrap this up, because I'm going way too long. Here is the New Year, New Me challenge that I've set for myself. And there's some little things that I want to do, some goals that I've set that I believe are important. The ones that I want to release here is, one, I need to divorce my phone. I need to have a cup of coffee in my hand more than I need to have a phone in my hand. So at 5 o'clock every day, you need to get a hold of me. You need to know my number to call. I am going to divorce my TV. And this has been something that Yahweh has asked me to do many times. And I'm not doing it in a legalistic way. I'm doing it because there's something else that needs to come besides me watching TV. I need to have one interaction with my family more than I do now. We have movie night every weekend. One day of the week we do movies. And then, so what this looks like now is if we remove the TV, it may look like playing board games together or going hiking or going to a park. It's going to take more presence, more us being in each other's space, talking, touching, all of those things. My wife and I would usually watch TV in the evening times. What's that look like now? It looks like having deep conversation. It's looking like having, oxytocin being released and finding our tribe. It may look like us jumping on lives on here with other people. It may look like having, meals together, or it may look like building a barn and actually doing this thing. Another thing that I have to divorce is the fear of boredom. I think we have this fear of being bored. Boredom is the gateway to being in the flow state, to learning what it means to work hard or be creative. I think as a parent, this is one of our biggest fears, is for our kids to be bored. So what do? Well, we replace that fear with, stuff, teaching them to be a consumer. Because we don't want them to be bored, because we want them to have the best childhood that there is. We don't know how important boredom is because it resets our brain. It allows us to think like deep thinking comes from boredom. And with our kids, that's usually when they start to be creative, or they make up a game, or they solve a problem. I need to divorce my fear of boredom. I need to, this may sound gross, I need to go to the bathroom without my phone. I need to start, if I do watch a movie at some point in 2026, I need to have my phone off when I'm driving. And I like podcasts. I like listening to podcasts. I get a lot from it, a lot of good things from it. And again, social media is not bad. But if it's used as an addiction to try to feel like we belong to something, it needs to be used as an accessory to building something, right? Food is going to look different for me. And this is embarrassing to say because I know a lot about food. I don't know everything, but we've done a lot of our own research. It's why we really got into homesteading, knowing that the things that we put in our bodies matter. And I've treated it as a stress reliever. A lot of people, you've heard it, have a cheat meal because you're rewarding yourself. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying the psychology of it is dangerous because we're associating, something that's really unhealthy for us to be a reward. That's what I'm trying to say. I have to divorce that mindset. I have to divorce, taking the edge off looks like me eating things I shouldn't be eating rather than me doing a workout or me trying to be a runner or whatever that. We have to physically release stress or we will carry it with us. You've seen that in movies or TV shows where a chiropractor will say you're carrying stress or tension in your shoulders. If we don't physically release stress, we will hold it. It'll make us sick. And then just junk. It's gossip. I want to get rid of my inclination to talk bad about groups or people. And I've been really good this year. But there's been times where I've, failed at that. I need to walk in the fear of the Lord when I have the opportunity to speak negatively about a person. I want to divorce that. I want to divorce victim mentality. And I'm letting you into a vulnerable place for me is I think I can easily spiral. When something hard happens or something bad, I can easily get into this victimhood mentality and spiral out of control and ask God, where are you? Or I'm out of the call of God of my life. How many times we've almost moved away and started over because of my inability to face things and handle things the right way. And then there's some things I need to just simply get rid of because they're taking up space. And, being convicted about even the music that I've listened to recently. I started getting into some hard rock, and I've noticed that the lyrics aren't aren't that great. It's not even cursing or anything like that. It's just, it brings out this attitude in me that's not healthy. And this is not coming from a place, 10 years ago, that would have been legalism. And I have to strive to be holy and beat myself up. That you're just pretending when it's that, okay? No, this is coming from, I just really want to do it. I just really want to not have that be a part of my life. So it's outside of this realm of legalism that I'm giving some of these away. They just don't have room. And I'm ready for 2026 to be the year that all these things start to change. And just to simplify, and I don't know where you're at right now with how you've ended 2025. For a lot of people, it's been a really hard year. 2026 is going to look like hard work, belonging, living loudly. We've been quiet for a long time. It's time to live loudly and live to our convictions and having fun. Let's just say having fun is going to be a lot to do with it. So I made a comment about this being the last episode of Finding Home. It is. With what we have found in terms of even just being our addiction to social media and doom scrolling and our addiction to information, we also need to simplify. And with all the things that we want to accomplish, there's so many different avenues of shows. Even we want to do on a podcast. We want to do a podcast that's around natural health. I need help with that. So my wife is going to help me. She's a lot better at that than I am. And we're going to be vulnerable and allow you to be a part and watch. I want to do things around homesteading. I want to do things around business creation. I still want to do things on theological things. But I believe that's just our brand. That is what the Wild Country is. It's a school. It's a permaculture school. It's a system school. So instead of having all these different, podcasts, we just want to have one. So we're going to change the name from Finding Home just to the Wild Country Podcast. So we should have a lot more episodes than we normally do. The goal is to have, one a week. So 4 a month. And those 4 will probably be different. One will be, focused on natural health and other on business. And there's the freedom of just doing whatever. But we want to be really intentional. We don't want to just overload our plate and putting us in the position where we have to be on our phones, or we have to be on the computer or YouTube. We still want to live simply. And this is kind of counterintuitive from, the business coaching that I've received. I just believe that there is an ancient path. Even to building a business and building a community, there's an ancient path that we have an opportunity to find again. And I've never been more excited. I've never been more motivated to make the necessary changes. So people, I implore you, what we're doing with our family tonight, which is the 31st, is I've spoken to our kids. So let's think about some of the goals that we want to do next year. And let's print them out. Let's find pictures that represent these goals and let's put them on our wall. I encourage you to do the same. I encourage you to make a vision board of where you want to be, where you feel like, and it's not where you want to be. It's where does Yahweh want us in 2026? And that involves you asking questions in prayer. Yahweh, what would you have me do? Where can I find you? What table will you be at in 2026? And I give you just permission, even though you don't need it. I want you to feel like this just permission in your heart, wherever you're at, to be intentional with 2026, especially the first 3 months. This is very important for January, February, and March, that you make the necessary shifts. And it's not a fad. It's not a New Year's resolution. This is a direction and a release from Yahweh. So we welcome that. Yahweh, we thank you for this past year, for allowing us to go through some of the things and going through the hard things and giving us the opportunity to rewire our brain. I'm telling you, the first 3 months are going to be a little bit difficult. And you're going to be like, I thought this year was the year of promise, right? It needs to be difficult. We have to rewire our brains. We have to allow Yahweh to heal the way that we think and the way that we approach things, or we will never go after the dreams that He has put in our heart. So I'm going to pause it here. The last episode of season 1 of the Finding Home podcast, which is now called the Wild Country Podcast. And I can't wait to see a lot of you next year. We're probably going to take a couple weeks off from the podcast. If you want more information, you should see it on our social media pages about the online community, of having some time to go over some things that are in our heart and walk this out together. First one's going to be the last part of January, and then look for new episodes in February of ways you can still, be in the loop of what we're doing. And I am proud of myself for doing a one take here. I'm leaving all the junk in, and I'm sorry, I just don't have time. I got to celebrate with my family. Can't be on the computer editing because I'm just not that good at it anyways, and it takes me too long. But I love you guys. And I'm going to end it with this. A lot of you are called to be a part of this thing. When you hear me say the wild country, and you hear me talk about homesteading, and you hear me talking about raising families in barns and long tables, something jumps on the inside of you. Do not hesitate. Do not wait. You need to get a hold of me. And I'll end on that. I'm Caleb Hanshaw with the Wild Country. We will see you in 2026.